Celebrating World Youth Day, young pilgrims welcome Pope Francis to Krakow.
It's an overwhelming feeling that you can't ever describe unless you've been here.
The Holy Father's message in St. John Paul II's homeland. Pope Francis takes a fall. He quickly recovers to celebrate Mass. The Clinton-Obama embrace. The president spoke for Hillary Clinton last night. Tonight, it's her turn.
President Obama with an energetic speech in defense of Hillary Clinton. I'm Jason Calvi. I'll have reaction from the DNC floor coming up.
Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Thursday, July 28th, 2016.
Hillary Clinton understands that this is not reality television. This is reality.
Democrats step up attacks on Donald Trump, trying to build support for Hillary Clinton. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. Clinton accepts the Democratic presidential nomination tonight. Our coverage of the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia begins with our political director, Lauren Ashburn. Lauren?
Brian, it is pouring and storming outside. We are coming to you from the city of firsts. First capital city, first city to nominate a female presidential candidate. But polls suggest Americans don't trust her. And 73% of the country believes we're going in the wrong direction. Her speech will try to debunk both of these perceptions by talking about her theme, Stronger Together. Last night, the nation's commander-in-chief celebrated her experience and slammed her rival, Donald Trump.
You cannot believe one word that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth.
I'm a New Yorker, and I know a con when I see one.
He's trying to tell us he cares about the middle class. Give me a break. That's a bunch of malarkey.
One by one, Democrats cast a shadow on Donald Trump.
There's Donald Trump. Don't boo, vote. The Donald is not really a plans guy. He's not really a facts guy either.
How can there be pleasure in saying you're fired?
Trump says he wants to run the nation like he's running his business? God help us.
President Obama says the choice is clear.
There has never been a man or a woman, not me, not Bill, nobody more qualified than Hillary Clinton to serve as President of the United States of America.
Compared to the Republican convention last week, where terrorism concerns were front and center, we have heard very little about the topic this week. On the floor after the president's speech last night, Jason Calvi asked Obama supporters like New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio why.
There were parts of President Obama's speech we could barely hear here on the floor because the crowd was so thunderous with their applause. As soon as he was done, we spoke with several lawmakers to get their reaction to President Obama's speech.
I felt it. It was so emotional in the room because I could feel that the president was emotional about the journey he had taken with his family, that even though there were ups and downs and cracks along the road, that he felt that the American people had embraced him and he embraced them.
With so many challenges facing the country, were you surprised that he only mentioned terrorism once or two times in this speech tonight?
Not at all, because I think America knows the climate in which we live. We have not had a terrorist act of the size of 9/11 since 9/11. We have had attacks, and we realize that we have to confront those attacks and stop those attacks. But it will be because Americans come together, that we see something, say something, that we don't demonize different faith, that those individuals of different faith acknowledge their patriotism as they work with us to fight against all people who want to undermine the fabric of democracy of this nation. So I don't think the president had to in any way say to the American public, I care about fighting terrorism. This is the president that took down Osama bin Laden.
Mr. Mayor, you know, many of the Republicans, they heard the words, we don't need a ruler, we don't need to be ruled. And some of the Republicans say, well, all these executive actions, the lawsuits, for example, against the contraceptive mandate, what do you make of those arguments?
No, I think what President Obama was saying was something much bigger. He was talking about the nature of democracy. The president's executive orders, executive actions have been in the context of a gridlocked Congress. He was talking about demagoguery and the fact that the American people want a democratic system where there's checks and balances, where there's respect, where there's actual interest in getting something done. And I think there's a real strong feeling in this country that we want to get back to that. But certainly a demagogue and a divisive figure isn't going to get us there.
And in just over 100 days, we'll find out if President Obama indeed will be able to pass on the baton to Hillary Clinton. Here at the DNC, Jason Calvi, EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you, Jason. Bob Cusack is editor-in-chief of The Hill. Melinda Henenberger is editor-in-chief of Roll Call. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Campaign manager Robbie Mook told reporters earlier today that Hillary Clinton is going to tell Americans tonight that the nation faces a moment of reckoning. Bob, how will she highlight herself?
I think she's got to give a very positive message. We heard a lot of that from the speakers last night, that love is better than hate, basically. So I think an optimistic message. You know, Donald Trump's negatives are so high. I've talked to a lot of Democrats this week, and they're saying you can't get his negatives any higher. So you have to uplift the nation. But you also have to recognize that stat that you mentioned, that 73% of Americans feel like the country's going the wrong way. So you have to have solutions. I think she's going to have, I'm the steady one, I'm the experienced one, and once again highlight, in her view, that Donald Trump is dangerous.
You know, there's a real concern, Melinda, that after last night's speeches with President Obama, Vice President Biden, Kaine, that she could be upstaged by the power of those speeches. Is she at risk?
Yes and no. I think she is unlikely to give speeches as soaring as Barack Obama's last evening, which very much reminded us of his speech when he first entered the national spotlight. You know, just very positive, very powerful. And Biden's speech, too, I thought he really hit a home run. Tim Kaine's, I thought he might at any moment jump into the crowd and start body surfing, crowd surfing. But I don't think people expect that level of oratory from her, so I don't really think that if she doesn't meet it, it'll be any big deal.
So low expectations work in her favor this time.
Yeah.
You know, Bob, Sanders folks are unhappy with her. We've seen a lot of division, but even Sanders hasn't been able to get them all on board. What happens tonight if there are boos for her?
I think that's a real problem, but I don't think it's likely. I think there'll be minimal boos. The boos you heard earlier in the week when you didn't have a whole arena full of Hillary delegates. So I think you'll maybe see a smattering of it, but this night is all about unity and defeating Donald Trump. And if there are any boos, I think those people are going to be shouted down.
Melinda, the campaign's latest message is stronger together, and part of her focus is going to be on income equality. Last night, as Bob mentioned, we saw all about love and togetherness. Which message is going to win? What do American people really want to hear?
I think they do want to hear specifics to some extent, but at the same time, Hillary Clinton was always a big admirer of Maya Angelou's, and one thing Maya Angelou said was, they won't remember what you said, they'll remember how you made them feel. And so I think the really important thing tonight is that she comes across as warm and humble.
And you agree, right?
I do.
Okay. All right. Bob Cusack, editor-in-chief of The Hill. Melinda Henenberger, editor-in-chief of Roll Call. Thanks for joining us. Brian, last night brought cheers when NARAL's president talked about her first abortion. We'll discuss the speech and its implications for society. Coming up next. Brian.
Thank you. Lauren Ashburn in Philadelphia. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. Pope Francis is well tonight after falling as he approached the altar to celebrate Mass at Poland's holiest shrine today. Francis apparently didn't notice a step down from the platform and fell to the ground before the altar. He braced his fall with his left hand and was immediately helped to his feet. The local archbishop saying the Pope is in good condition. He never complained. The Mass proceeded as planned, with a homily delivered to tens of thousands in Poland's southern city of Częstochowa. Mary is enshrined here in the icon known as the Black Madonna.
È una madre che si prende a cuore I problemi e interviene.
The Holy Father saying Mary is a mother who takes people's problems to heart and acts. The Pope later prayed before the image of Our Lady of Częstochowa. Francis is making his first visit to Poland, the native land of Pope St. John Paul II, who inaugurated World Youth Day more than 30 years ago. Hundreds of thousands cheer as the Pope-mobile passes through the streets of Krakow. Young Catholics came here from all over the world.
This is my 4th World Youth Day, and I've had an opportunity to see the Pope pass by. It's very exciting, very emotional. Every time it probably brings tears to my eyes, and it's an overwhelming feeling that you can't ever describe unless you've been here.
And I think that is a miracle that I am here with those sisters, and we are so happy, and I'm waiting for a miracles, because I think it's only a beginning.
Polish police warn anyone breaching security trying to get close to the Pope risks being shot. A young priest from Argentina was grabbed by police. He ran up to the Pope-mobile hoping to get his rosary blessed by the Holy Father. Italy expels 2 Moroccans for threatening Catholic churches. One of them threw a 300-year-old crucifix to the ground earlier this month inside a Venice church. The other shouted abusive statements about Catholicism at a church in Trentino. Italy says it has deported more than 100 foreigners suspected of having links to ISIS since the beginning of last year. French officials identify the second man who attacked a Normandy church during morning mass this week. 19-year-old Abdel Malik Nabil Petitjean from eastern France was spotted last month in Turkey. Meanwhile, the priest who is savagely murdered is mourned. Civic and religious leaders pay tribute to Father Jacques Hamel. Today, the Archbishop of nearby Rouen spoke as Jewish and Muslim representatives joined him on the stage. Yesterday, French President François Hollande attended a mass at Notre Dame Cathedral. The Cardinal Archbishop of Paris officiated. Father Jacques was 85 years old. A nun who witnessed his murder describes him as a man who loved everyone, regardless of their religion. German Chancellor Angela Merkel stands firm on her policy of accepting refugees from the Middle East. This despite repeated terror attacks and increasing anti-refugee rhetoric in Europe. Wyatt Goolsby is here with more.
Brian, Merkel says her country is being tested and will not back down. Today she laid out an extensive plan to protect Germany from terrorism, but insists they will continue to shelter people fleeing violence.
Es stellt unser Verständnis von Freiheit und Sicherheit auf die Probe.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel addressing her country today, saying terrorists want to divide us and stop us from welcoming people. It's the first time Merkel has commented on terrorism since Sunday's suicide bombing. German investigators say the Syrian asylum seeker who blew himself up had pledged allegiance to ISIS. Security remains on high alert across Germany and other parts of Europe.
Minden egyes migráns.
The Hungarian Prime Minister says his country will not take in any more migrants, saying every migrant, every single one of them, represents a public security and a terror risk. While in Poland, Pope Francis urged lawmakers to show compassion towards migrants. During today's homily, the Holy Father encouraged Christians to spend their lives in service of those in need, without favorites or distinctions. Some see that as a criticism of Poland's decision not to take in migrants from Syria and Iraq.
It's very difficult reconciling the two. How to be hospitable, how to welcome the stranger and the oppressed, but then how do you be careful with the citizen?
Bishop Mar Awa Royal of the Assyrian Church of the East is a longtime advocate for Christians in Iraq and Syria. He often visits and speaks on behalf of those suffering at the hands of ISIS. He says the concerns from Americans and Europeans are justified.
Many of the other countries that are hosting the displaced and the refugees really do need to have good, solid background checks. These are refugees carrying out these crimes against the citizens, and that can't be justified.
FBI Director James Comey says success against terrorists in Syria could cause them to scatter to other countries, including the United States and those in Western Europe. Brian?
Wyatt Goolsby, thank you. Coming up, Pope Francis prepares for a trip to a Nazi death camp, the message it sends to the world. And we return to the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. A massive crowd of young pilgrims in Krakow for World Youth Day welcome Pope Francis Wednesday.
Vi vedo con tanto entusiasmo e tanta gioia.
He addressed them from the same window in the bishop's palace that St. John Paul II used during his visits to his homeland. The Holy Father told young Catholics they should thank God for courage and they shouldn't be afraid. Thanks for joining us this Thursday evening. I'm Brian Patrick. Rabbi Abraham Skorka of Buenos Aires, a close friend of Pope Francis, says the Pope's planned visit to Auschwitz is a wake-up call to the world.
His only presence and just his special silence in Auschwitz is a cry to the world. Please, let us come together.
Pope Francis does not plan to speak tomorrow during his silent visit to Auschwitz-Birkenau. More than 1 million people died there at the hands of Nazis, mostly Jews, but also some Catholics. Our political director, Lauren Ashburn, joins us again from the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. Lauren?
Brian, there's been a lot of Trump bashing here this week, particularly after comments he made yesterday. Today, Donald Trump says he was joking about those comments and being sarcastic when he suggested Russia help find Hillary Clinton's missing emails.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
Trump's comment drew widespread condemnation. The Clinton campaign says it's the first time a presidential candidate has actively encouraged a foreign power to conduct espionage against a political opponent. And Trump's running mate, Mike Pence, admits that Trump is very candid and speaks his mind. But he says Trump also has a vision to make America great again. Tim Carney is senior political columnist for the Washington Examiner. Tim, welcome back.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about why Trump is being attacked. Democratic leader Reid has said Trump should receive a fake briefing. Are we going to hear more and more about Trump tonight?
I think you will, because first of all, Donald Trump is the best argument that the Democrats have for Hillary Clinton, especially when they're facing sort of the rest of Bernie Sanders supporters, independent voters who hold Hillary in very low regard. Trump is their best argument. But also it speaks very specifically to his fitness for office. When President Obama said Hillary is totally qualified, you see a guy who makes, at best, these jokes that are sort of unnerving, that's a good argument to say, look, he's not fit. Hillary wouldn't do that sort of thing.
Let's go back to something that was disturbing, I think, for Catholics last night. The president of the pro-choice group, NARAL, told the crowd about the time she got her first abortion. The crowd cheered. What does this tell us about the Democratic Party today?
Yeah, I even saw one delegate stand up to clap when she said, I had an abortion. And what it shows us, together with Tim Kaine having to come over and accept the Clinton position on the Hyde Rule, and when you see how central the abortion industry, the abortion lobby is to their fundraising, it really is the most inviolable plank in their platform is abortion. And it's an extreme position on abortion in any case, and with subsidy. So they don't talk about it as much as they talk about other issues, but I think it is closer to the heart of the Democratic Party than any other issue.
And this time they've taken out the word rare from...
the safe, legal, and rare. Now it's safe, legal, and subsidized.
Right. That's true. You say in your article today for The Examiner that conservatives should listen to, drum roll, Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
What's that about?
So it's not about Sanders' sort of policy message, but the policy message was always secondary for Sanders. It's kind of about the politics, whereas Sanders was really not just saying money in politics. That was secondary, where he said people need to be more involved in civic life. This is something that I think is true. I'm a Catholic, I'm a conservative, and for both of those, there's the idea that we every day need to get involved. We need to get involved in our communities, that politics can't just be done by the big guys, by the politicians. It has to be something done by the everyday people. That was really what I saw when I talked to Sanders delegates. That's what they got excited about, was saying he empowered us. He made us feel we could make a difference. And I think that's an important message.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Tim Carney from the Washington Examiner. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Up next, Olympic headlines. Russian athletes try to overcome a doping scandal. And Dr. Matthew Bunsen views the Democratic National Convention through a Catholic lens. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, O my soul. I will praise the Lord as long as I live. I will sing praises to my God while I have being. From today's responsorial Psalm 146. Thanks for joining us this Thursday evening, the 28th of July. As Russia's Olympic team leaves for the 2016 Games in Brazil, sports governing bodies scramble to figure out who's eligible to compete. More than a quarter of the 387 athletes are banned so far after an investigation found evidence of widespread doping. The entire Russian track and field team cannot compete. More bans are expected. The International Olympic Committee rejected calls, though, for a blanket ban of the Russian team. The Summer Games begin next Friday in Rio de Janeiro. We take you now back to the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia with political director Lauren Ashburn.
Brian, we've spoken a lot about Hillary Clinton, but Vice Presidential nominee Senator Tim Kaine is also in the House tonight for what will be the most important speech of her political night. Now, last night he feted her, cited his faith and as a reason that he stands by her on social issues. Dr. Matthew Bunsen is a historian, theologian, and EWTN senior contributor. Welcome back.
Great to be with you.
In his speech, he referenced his Jesuit education, time as a missionary, even scripture. You must love your neighbors as yourself. Should Catholics celebrate this?
Yeah, absolutely. We celebrate any time that a Catholic is put in a position of possibly having great power in the United States. It's a demonstration, I think, of the success that the Church has had in assimilating Catholics in the United States. We've had a Catholic president in John F. Kennedy. Now we've had a Catholic vice president in Joe Biden. The question, though, the catch is, are these candidates, are these Catholics in political life living the faith and representing the faith in a way that is authentic to the teachings of the Church?
He's been labeled as a Pope Francis Catholic. What does that mean exactly, and is that accurate?
Yeah, well, the media is portraying him as a Pope Francis Catholic, which seems to imply that he has license to pick and choose which of the teachings of the Church he wants to follow, sort of in keeping with the misrepresented line from Pope Francis of who am I to judge? In fact, if you
Which was very popular among people who are not Catholic.
Exactly, but if you listen and read what Pope Francis actually says, you come away with a very different set of values and teachings on life, on gender ideology, and a host of other important issues for Catholics.
You know, we have been talking a lot about abortion this week as it's a significant part of their platform. A moral evil for Catholics, that's what it is. Yeah. What has Pope Francis said about Catholics who want to get involved in politics, like Senator Kaine?
Well, if you say that you're a Pope Francis Catholic, you should heed his advice. Right. And Pope Francis has said that you must be willing to be a martyr for the common good. You must be willing to follow the teachings of the Church in a way that actually may lead to your political martyrdom, to do what is right, what is best for the common good. The role model for that, of course, is and always will be St. Thomas More, who went to his death upholding the teachings of the Church and doing, again, what is best for the common good. All Catholic politicians, American or otherwise, should heed that model. That.
All right, Dr. Matthew Bunsen, theologian, senior EWTN contributor. Thank you so much for your expertise. Nice to be with you. We will be here all night as the Democratic Convention comes to a close. Now, I just want to show you on every seat there is this blue card, which is being called a card stunt. And Democrats are going to hold this up before the balloon drops. You will see that on your TV screens tonight. Speakers are going to include Representative Nancy Pelosi and General John Allen, but the night is also going to feature celebrities like basketball star Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, performances by Carole King and Katy Perry. Earlier, Lady Gaga and Lenny Kravitz performed for delegates. Tonight, there will be an introduction of Hillary Clinton by Chelsea Clinton. We will have complete coverage tomorrow on our show at 6 o'clock. Our political special will air immediately following the show at 6:30. We will wrap up the historic week where Hillary Clinton was officially nominated. Brian, back to you.
Thank you, Lauren Ashburn. And for the EWTN News Nightly team there in Philadelphia and here in Washington, I'm Brian Patrick. We leave you tonight revisiting the Papal Mass today in Częstochowa, Poland. Good night. God bless you.